All right, guys. Well, first off, I just want to thank you all for coming. My name is Colin Hill. I know during PASIC, there's a lot of choices to make every hour, so really appreciate you guys being here today. It means a lot. And today we're going to talk all about practicing. And I first became interested in practicing when I was a senior at University of North Texas. And I studied with Robert Citroma. For those of you that don't know who Robert Citroma is, he was the director of the percussion department from 77 to 99 at UNT, and still teaches adjunct. And due to the nature of the program, it's extremely large. It's usually around 150 percussion majors, which is huge. And for that reason, Robert Citroma has seen a lot of students come and go through the program over the years, many of which have gone on to be extremely successful in our industry. So in a lesson with them, I asked him, Doc, you've taught a lot of really successful students. What separated those students from the rest of the student body? What made them different? And he looked at me and he said, they just practice harder than everybody else. Yeah, a few of them came in a little bit more talented, but they weren't exempt from this. They practiced their butts off. They lived in the practice rooms. So as a senior at North Texas, this was really encouraging because I thought, well, I'm in total control of my own destiny. All I have to do is work hard. So that had a huge impact on me. I went to Indiana University for my master's, and my practice hours went through the roof. Started practicing a lot more. And then I went to University of Kentucky for my doctorate, and I had to choose a dissertation topic. And so it was an easy choice for me. I thought, well, I'll study practicing. And I'd been practicing a lot more, but I started to think, am I doing this right? I'm spending a lot of hours in the practice room. Am I doing it correctly? Am I doing it most efficiently? How do the best people practice? What do they do when they close the door and they're practicing? So the initial goal of my dissertation was to try to find a formula. How do the best people practice? What do they do? Is there a common trend? And so I figured out the best way to really find the answer to these questions was to interview them. So the last 3.5 years, I've done 36 different interviews with some of our industry's most successful percussionists. If you look at the list, there's a wide range of people, both in where they are in their career. Some people have been in the industry for years and years, at the end of their career in the PAS Hall of Fame, while others are young up-and-coming stars in our industry. I also tried to focus on different instrument areas. So you'll see people up here that are known for being rimbus, or timpanists, or orchestral percussionists, or multi-percussionists. All right. So I tried to get a wide sampling of all these percussionists, but staying within the realm of classical percussion. And in these interviews, I asked them 10 questions, all about their practice habits. How do they warm up? How do they learn a new piece of music? How do they prepare for performance? All these things. And what I quickly found out is that I wasn't going to be able to find a formula. Everybody practices differently. Answers were all over the place. Not only were they different, but they were in complete contradiction to each other. Some person would say, I practice this way, and here's why. And then the next person I asked would say, I don't practice that way, I practice this way, and this is why. So there isn't a set way to do this. And I think it's based on their learning style, their personality, and also who they studied with. However, there was one question, question 9, that had similar answers across the board. So in your handout, the first page has the list of all these people and their title. The questions aren't in there, but there are 10 questions, and they got to all different parts of their practice routine. How they warm up, how they learn a new piece of music, how they practice calm spots, a bunch of stuff. Well, question 9, they all had the same answer for it. And the question was, during different time periods of your life, on average, how many hours per day did you practice? And the results were astonishing. Here are the average numbers for these different time periods. All right, so middle school, 1.6 hours per day. All right, high school, 2.3 hours per day. Undergraduate, 4.8. Graduate studies, 5.4. And then currently, 1.4. So for a lot of us, this seems pretty high, right? Let's just do a little quick survey. Raise your hand if you hit your demographic right now, currently. Cool, so a handful of people. Good, congratulations to you guys, that's awesome. For the rest of us though, these seem pretty high, right? Now, everybody was pretty much right around these numbers, but there were a few outliers that were off the charts high. Pretty amazing. Some people that come to mind, Kevin Bobo, professor at Indiana University, he said his freshman and sophomore year of college, he averaged about 8 hours a day. Matthew Duvall, if you guys know that name, he's the percussionist with 8th Blackbird. They just won their 4th Grammy recently. He went to CCM for his master's, and he said on average, he was saying between 10 and 12 hours a day during his master's. He lived in the practice room. He said he slept there most nights. No joke. All right. Paul Rennick, I'm sure you guys know that name. Teaches at North Texas, really involved in DCI. He said, this is wild, but he said, starting in the 6th grade, he hit consistently about 6 hours a day as a 6th grader. He said his routine was the same every day. He'd come home from school about 3:30 in the afternoon, and he'd go straight down to his basement and start playing snare drum or playing drum set, whatever it was. At 6:30, his mom would bring him down dinner, and he'd eat it on his snare drum at his drum set. Then at 9:30 at night, his mom would flash the lights, and that was bedtime. And this was his daily routine, starting in 6th grade. Pretty amazing. So, the only thing that these people had in common was that they practiced a lot. All their methods were totally all over the place, right? So many unique different ways to practice. So the dissertation quickly became a documentation of all the different ways you can practice that have led to successful careers, rather than trying to find a specific practice formula. So, all this data really supports this theory called the 10,000 hour rule. This was popularized by Malcolm Gladwell in his book, The Outliers, in 2008. Who's heard of this rule, 10,000 hour rule? Yeah, it's pretty well known. Great. If you haven't heard of this rule, essentially what it says is to achieve mastery in music, or sports, or public speaking, or even being a master criminal, you have to put in 10,000 hours of practice at your given activity to master it. Right? So I was curious, how did the percussionists I interviewed align with this? And in fact, on average, they hit the 10,000 hour mark by 21 and a half years old. And this is pretty early, right? Maybe earlier than we may expect. And this was also consistent with Gladwell's theory. He says that actually you have to achieve 10,000 hours around the age of 20 or 21. Because at that point, you start your career and your hours plummet. And this was also consistent with my data. If we go back to the graph and you look at currently, 1.4 hours currently is less than they practice on average in middle school. So think about how much you practice in middle school. And those people are practicing less than that. It's pretty depressing, right? What's amazing about this, though, is we see these people play on a regular basis, and they're phenomenal, right? How are they doing that when they're practicing less than they did in middle school? Well, the answer to that is, everybody I interviewed said, I don't have any time to practice now. Now it's an issue of maintenance. I'm trying to maintain my skills. That's all I can do with the time I have. They say that when they left school, that was the peak of their technical abilities. And now it's kind of a steady decline. Now, yeah, you get more intelligent, you understand music better, so you're still advancing as a musician, but as far as technical proficiency on the instrument, they're trying to just maintain what they left school with. So I think this is a common misconception. Everybody in school thinks, oh, I'm so busy, I don't have any time to practice. I'll figure out how to play drum set when I leave school and I have more time. Or I'll figure out how to play four-mallet marimba better when I leave and I have some more time. And that's incorrect. When you leave school, that's the max of your potential. And it's a steady decline from there, unfortunately. So really use the time that you have in school to practice. It's the most thing you'll ever have. For those of you that are out of school, I'm sorry. Your time is passed. But take this seriously. This is really important. Now is the time to perfect your craft. You don't have a whole life to do it. Okay? So it's clear from all this data that we have to practice a lot. In fact, 10,000 hours. But the interesting thing about it is, if practice is the single most contributing factor to our success, something that was in common with all 36 percussionists, why is it so secretive? And what I mean by that is, think about when you're practicing and somebody walks in the room. What do you usually do? Stop. We all do it, right? Or say you're in the practice room and someone walks by the practice room door and you see them pause to listen. What do you do then? Usually play your best stuff, right? Ram some notes, right? Play what you're good at. So practicing is crucial for success, maybe the only thing that we can relate back to success, yet it's a big secret. And further, in lessons, in studios, it's not talked about very often either between teachers and students. Raise your hand if your teachers, on a regular basis, talks about how to practice. Okay, great. Yeah, a few of you. That's awesome. Now, raise your hand if, of those people, you've actually practiced for your teacher for a long amount of time, and they've critiqued you on it. Only 2 or 3. So this doesn't make much sense. Think about if that's what we taught buzz rules. All right, we explain it to them in words. Right hand buzz, left hand buzz, now put them together and speed them up. If that's all the instruction you got on your buzz roll, how good would you be at it? Right? You have to go and you have to play it, and they have to give you feedback. Practicing is no different. We have to do it for people. We have to see if we're doing it right, see if we're doing it most efficiently. So this is kind of a big gap in our education. So the rest of this clinic is all based on how do we spend those 10,000 hours. We know we have to do 10,000 hours of practice, but what are we doing in that time? And we're going to take examples from everybody I interviewed, all 36 percussionists. And I've divided up all the data into 6 different areas. Planning your practice session, or how you organize it. Warming up. Learning new music. Problem spots. Memorization. And performance preparation. Now, if you guys look in your handout, the outline is categorized by these 6 areas. And you'll see A, B, C, D, different methods for each of these areas. Now, the ones in bold are the ones we're going to talk about today. In 50 minutes, I can't get through all this stuff. It's not enough time. So the ones in bold are the ones I've selected. They're either the most widely used or the most interesting and unique. All right. Now, there are many more methods that are included in my dissertation that aren't even on your outline. And they're all on my website. My dissertation is posted in full at colinhillpercussion.com. So please check that out. All right, so each slide is going to follow the same format. At the bottom, it's going to say pros. And that's going to list whatever method I'm talking about, which pros prescribed in that method. Okay? That's also on your handout as well. So the first area of practice is planning your practice session.